Hi there and welcome to the channel. I'm Marguerite, owner of Wreaths by Marguerite, and today you'll be following along while I create this beautiful cowboy wreath for some friends of mine that just bought a home in Wyoming. They wanted something new and fun and appropriate for where they were living. So I had already had all the materials in my cart because I wanted to make some cowboy wreaths for some of the events that I have coming up. And she loved what I had in the cart, so we said that's a go ahead, let's do it. So this is a storm door style wreath. What that means is that when you look at it from the side, it's less than 4 inches deep. But when you're looking at it head on, it's nice and fluffy. Yes, it doesn't have a big bow, but it does still have a ton of ribbon on it so that you still get the same effect. And it's just a beautiful design. Can go anywhere, not just behind a storm and a screen door. But it's designed originally for that, and I believe that they have a screen door on their home. So this will fit perfectly there. So this was for you, Lorraine. Everybody else, come on in, get your favorite drink, and follow along while I make this beautiful wreath. Okay, so like I said, I'm creating this wreath as a custom order for a good friend of ours that has moved to Wyoming and purchased a new house. I wanted something special for her door. So I said, I got it. She chose out all the materials. As a matter of fact, I had picked all these out to make one for my shop. For the upcoming season, I have a couple of craft shows that I'm participating in that has a Western theme to it, so I thought this would be a great addition. So once I get this done, I'm going to order another set for me for the shop and make it slightly different, so it's not exactly that, because I like to be able to say that every item I make is unique, except for in the kids. So Lorraine, this is for you, and we're going to get started. Let me go over the product being used. First of all, we have a 14¼ inch frame where I've already put 12 pipe cleaners on them. You got to use a 4-ring wire frame in order for this style to work correctly in the placement of the mesh and the ribbon and overlapping, because technically it's a storm door or screen door wreath. What that means, once again, is it will be under 4 inches deep this way, so that it fits in that 4 inches of space behind either a screen or a storm door up against a regular door. You can make it poofier if that's not a concern, but the way this looks when it gets done, it will have that poofy look when you're looking at it head on, but it'll be nice and thin so it doesn't look smushed behind the door. That's the whole concept behind this, but I sell them for everybody, not just for storm door wreaths. So that's the frame. It's also got 6 crossbars on it. You gotta have 6 crossbars because you're staggering the pipe cleaners. The outer 6 go at the crossbars, the pipe cleaners, and then the inner 6 go in between the crossbars on ring 3 and 4, where the outside ones go on rings 1 and 2. So I always start off by pushing the inner ring pipe cleaners to the center because we're not going to use them. We're doing it 1 layer at a time. And then in front of me, I have my frame, and I always put my pipe cleaners in front of me that I'm working on. I turn it as I go so I'm not contorting my body. Makes it easier to work on when you bring the project to you. That's always been my advice, and I find that it really makes a difference. If you stand, it may not be as much of an issue, but I am a sitter. Okay, so the second thing is our base. That's going to be the Deco Mesh. This is 10-inch mesh, meaning 10 inch this way. The mesh that you use for this style of wreath is always anywhere from 9.5 to 11 inch this way. Most of it will be 10 and 10.5 inch. This is a fabric mesh. It's got plastic in it too, so it's weather resistant. Meaning if it gets wet, it'll dry up and be just fine. There are 12 pipe cleaners, so there's 12 pieces of mesh. Therefore, and then they're all cut at a 20-inch length the long way. Okay, you don't want to go longer. You could go a touch shorter, but I don't recommend it because you're going to want to be able to overlap the mesh a little bit when we get to that part. Then these are the 3 ribbon styles that I chose to go with the sign. I got a 10.5 inch or a 10-inch sign to use on it, and I went with these 3. These look a little wrinkled because I like to make up a sample to match up with the sign before I get started, so I'm mostly confident that it's all going to work well together. There's been very few instances that it didn't match right, and it is what it is. You just take it apart and rebuild. But I went with the naturals with the boots. These both have boots that go both directions, so it doesn't matter what direction you put those in the wreath. Where this has all of their designs, those designs, those elements going the same direction, so I'm going to have to be careful when I put these in the frame, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do when I get there. And I like the nice red accent that ties in with the mesh. And all of it ties in with the sign, which is a very country welcome sign for a front door. There are 3 ribbons that are going to go in each tie on top of each piece of mesh, and they are pre-cut at 12 inches in length, and I've already cut the tips. When you cut your mesh, no, not your mesh, when you cut your ribbon, you're always wanting to fold it in half and cut it at an angle from the folded side to the wired side. I always say have the folded end, the middle, touching the table, and the cut ends facing the ceiling. That way you can remember to cut from that folded edge up to the wire at a 45-degree angle. So that's the methodology behind it. So there's 3 ribbons in each tail, so that means there's 12 of each of these, and they're all folded and bundled up all ready to go for me. I try to do all that stuff before I get started when I'm not teaching a kit so that we can fly through the process. If you want more detailed direction, the first dozen or so videos I did when I started in the beginning of 2024 will go over every single cut of every single piece of ribbon and every attachment onto the wreath, if you want to go into that detail, if you're not sure about just following this to do something on your own. So I had them all folded in half. So there's 36 pieces because 12, 12, and 12. You'll notice there's a real common theme here. 12 pipe cleaners, 12 pieces of mesh, 12 pieces of each ribbon. Alright, so let me get these put together so that I have them all ready. And then I want to go over the sign. That one didn't fold right. To the side because we won't be using that right away. This is the sign I chose. It's a UV resistant to the sun. It's metal. I've already pre-attached cable tie mounts on the back, and I've taken 2 pipe cleaners and cut them in half, put half in each cable tie mount. When attaching the cable tie mounts to the back of the sign, I always put a super glue type of glue. This is a Loctite super glue. It's a gel. I really like it. On the bottom of the cable tie mount pad before I attach it to the wreath. That's what's going to hold it long term. And then I go back over and around the cable tie mount and add hot glue. That is not going to hold it through the seasons. That is just more or less a way to attach everything and be able to work with the wreath pretty quickly. Once the hot glue is hardened up, you can start using the sign to put in your project. The other thing that you can do is a lot of the companies that make signs come pre-drilled with the holes, or you can put your own holes in them. I try to avoid that because the holes don't always match up with where the pipe cleaners go. So I find that this is better than there's nothing going on in the front. Yes, when I put the top layer of ribbon on, it's going to overlap the sign a little bit, but it doesn't always cover the holes, so keep that in mind. Also, you can order the signs from a lot of vendors either with no holes or with holes, so that's something to think about too if you're doing this on your own. And I always try to keep it face down on the plastic it came in until I'm ready to use it so it stays protected and doesn't get scratched. Okay, so right now I'm going to bring this back out a little bit and get this to go just a touch more, because I have a habit of working off the table over here a little bit, and I don't want you to miss anything. It's one of my quirks. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start attaching the Deco Mesh to the frame. I've already got all my pipe cleaners positioned. We're doing the outer ring first, and you want your pipe cleaners to be horizontal to you because you're going to put in the ruffled mesh vertically in that. So I like to use a chip clip to hold one end down because you see it's curly, and you're always working with this method with the curl side down. You can either use a ruler or a cutting mat or whatever you have to measure to find your center, but the fastest, easiest, no tool way to find your center on your mesh is just fold it in half, put your finger there, and that's where I put the clip. And I turn it around because I want that clip at the top so that I can follow it So make sure I'm in the center when I'm ruffling. This one, that's the center, but also it's pretty easy. If you notice, since this is a patterned mesh, it's pretty easy to figure out where your center is. It makes it a lot easier to get a more accurate centered ruffle than with a solid colored mesh. But having that on the top is a great tool to help you keep centered when you're ruffling. When you ruffle, you're putting your thumbs on the outside of the mesh, and you're just taking all the rest of your fingers and crawling up the center. I'm going to do this 2 different ways as I'm going through the wreaths, and I'll explain the other way when I get there. Usually when I'm doing these tutorials or YouTube videos, I do the bottom half, the outside ring, the way I just did it. I'm getting to the top, I pull the clip off, and then I'm holding it with my thumb and my forefinger, my index finger, loosely so that I can pull the mesh to make a perfect circle. Keeping in mind, never grab it on the absolute outside edge, because if you're holding it too tight here or you pull it too tight there, you're going to change the design and it might look like it's got holes in it. So we want to avoid that whenever possible. So I try to grab up towards the middle, or at least close to the middle where my fingers are, so that you know that that portion is going to be covered once all the other elements are in the wreath. So now I've got it rounded. And you can't see it because it came off on its own, but all mesh frays, you can't avoid it, but it is what it is. Make sure that you're wearing something not new, and preferably short sleeve when you're working with the Deco Mesh, because it is truly acting like Velcro. There's no avoiding it. Making sure you also have plenty of space to work in so that you can keep everything else out of the way. Otherwise, as you're turning your wreath, they start attaching themselves to it. It's one more challenge you can avoid by doing the things I suggest. So I'm going to put that mesh in here vertically, centered. Centered is where my thumb and forefinger was. Mesh is in vertically. The pipe cleaners were horizontal. And I'm going to really tightly twist the pipe cleaner tight and low, and keeping it low at each time, twisting it 2 to 3 times, and then bringing the rest of it up out of the way because we're not using it right now. Keeps it out of your hands. So now we're going to take that outside cut edge of Deco Mesh and put it over the inside cut edge of the Deco Mesh, outside cut edge over the inside cut edge on the other side. And then if we need to make adjustments, this is where we do it. Now, you'll notice this is like an inch away from that, so I'm going to make an adjustment. Same thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it from the pipe cleaners, and I'm not going to hold it from the mesh, and I'm going to reach in right next to the pipe cleaner and pull this out a little bit till we get the edges to match up, because we're looking to create a perfect circle. Nothing's perfect, but you know, as close to perfect as possible. I'm going to reach down here on the top part of the piece, grab it by the pipe cleaner, and bringing it out a little bit to even it up. I grab it by the pipe cleaner because if you just try to start pulling from the base around the pipe cleaner, sometimes you will actually untwist the pipe cleaner. I need this for a little bit to cut off. There's a string hanging out. I just saw it and now I can't see it. Oh, there it is. It blended in. I try to clean the frays off as I go so I don't have to figure out where they are when I am done. So there you go. Now you're just going to lift up your mesh and try to, you know, tuck it under on the edges. That helps hold it in place. And if you're asking yourself why I do the outside cut edges over the inside cut edges always when I'm placing the mesh in here, that's so that any of the exposed cut edges are not as exposed. If they were out here, they could catch on things and unravel and make a mess, and you don't want to do that because the less you handle the mesh, the better. Doing it this way hides all the cut edges, and you're not going to have to worry about it fraying anymore once everything's put together, okay? So when I put the mesh on, I don't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't do it in that order. I skip one, and then I go to the next one. I just like how it lays when it's done, where you have the first 3 and then the second 3 layered on top of it. That also seems to help with keeping it nice and thin when you're trying to keep it thin for a storm door wreath. Okay, again, curl side down. I'm not going to turn it this time. And if you'll notice, I use the edge of the table to uncurl it. Always remember, curl side down. I'm going to put the clip there. I don't need to on this because it's easy to see where the center of the mesh is. but I do it just out of practice and because it helps hold down the mesh. I cut a little excess off here that doesn't need to be there. Yeah, because if you've done this before and used mesh, or you're going to learn now, the further into the roll of mesh you get, the tighter the curl. So when you lay it out on the table like this, it will fight you. This helps weigh it down. And if this is not enough, I always throw my phone or a tool on it up there to hold it in place. It also actually helps to have that weight when you're ruffling. I find that I get a little bit tighter of a ruffle, and it's not fighting me to curl up on that end as much. So just to show you that one time, I'm putting my phone there. Get up to the top, take that clip off, and remembering to hold it loosely in the thumb and index finger. Okay, there's another factor in this mesh. If you notice on one side here, the edge is more tan, and on this side is more red. So I have to remember that when I'm putting it in the frame. So what I think I will do to give it more added dimension is I'll do the first 3 with the red facing out, red edge facing out, and then I'll do the other 3 with the tan beige hanging out. So that's another way you can add dimension to your projects. And you can only do this with the wreath frame that has an even number of pipe cleaners or twist ties on it, because otherwise you'll have 2 exactly the same right next to each other. Now if you're putting a big old fluffy bow on your wreath, we are not on this style. That's not as big of a deal because you can usually put your bow on the side where 2 the same are next to each other. But I try to avoid that at all costs. It's the same thing with the ribbon. You got to have an even number of ties in order to do more than one design. And you'll see that in some of my other videos. Like if I had these 3 as one bundle and I had 3 different ribbons as another bundle, I would put this in these 3 that I'm doing now, and then I put the other in these 3. But we're not doing that. So hopefully I'm not confusing you too much. Okay, I got everything in here. I got the outside cut edge on one side over the inside cut edge, and then the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Lift these out of the way. Make sure it's circular. Try to keep everything even. This has a point coming out on it, so I want to correct that. It still looks circular, but I want it to be more matchy-matchy on both sides. So, another thing I should tell you is also, if you can't get the circle perfect, your goal is to make sure that this outside edge is nice and perfectly circular, because that is the only place, especially on the bottom layer, that you're going to see the mesh. The rest of this is going to be covered up by the second layer and the ribbon tails. So keep that in mind. Don't kill yourself to make sure that it's absolutely perfect, because like I said, the more you handle the product, the more likely it's going to fray. Okay. So keep your workspace as clean as possible so that you're not catching it up in your wreath and having to pick it out later. Got that there. I have the curl side down, clip in the middle. I'm going to go down here and gather it all into my thumbs, and my thumbs are on the outside of the mesh so that I can get all those ruffles made all the way to the top. You can either reach across the table as you're making the ruffles, or you can pull it down towards you as you go. Again, so you're not putting any strain on your back. Thumb and forefinger. It looks nice and circular, so I didn't need to make any adjustments. See, this is still, with all the room I have, it's still catching on it. Alright, number 3. And this one is also going to have the red edge on the outside, the predominantly red. Hopefully you can see that in the video so that it makes sense. Tight and low 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. 2 to 3 is what's needed. Then you're going to take that outside cut edge over here, over the inside cut edge, the outside cut edge over here. And this is way off. This is much shorter on this side than that side, so I'm going to hold the pipe cleaner, bring it out in the center first by holding it right at the pipe cleaner. And then this edge is not lined up, so I need to do it from this side right here. Pull it out a little bit just to get it matched up. It needs a little more, so we're going to go a little more. Okay. Alright, so let's kind of need to bring that one out just a touch. There we go. I think we got it. There's always got to be one or two that give you fits. Cut off any frayed pieces. And see, I don't have to handle that anymore. I'm done. So now we're going to go back and do the next 3. Fill in between those 3. And keeping in mind that I want the tan beige colored edge on the outside. So I'm going to start off by having it to my right. I'm left-handed, so if I'm confusing you with any of this direction, I apologize. I don't know how to do it any other way. Ironically, there's not a... I've had left-handed scissors, but they're uncomfortable for me, believe it or not. I don't hold the regular right-handed scissors correctly, but I prefer right-handed, and I put my thumb in the part here when it's supposed to be over there. Don't ask, it works, right? Whatever works. Okay, let me clip that top, center. Got a couple frays down here I want to get off to start with. This has a little burlap in it, so I tend to scratch my nose. Like I said, it's a fabric and poly mix, but I love how it feels in the hand. I love how it looks. It very much gives it a much more rustic look too, which is what we are definitely shooting for in this design. Okay, hold up my thumb and forefinger. Make sure my edges all meet up correctly. Try to keep it round, but not grabbing the edges. We're going to come in here, and this time I got to turn it a little bit. I work at an angle, even though it's directly in front of me. It's just more comfortable for me. Okay, grab that, put that in there vertically, up and over with the pipe cleaner, nice and tight and low 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And what I mean by tight and low is I'm not twisting up towards the ceiling. I'm twisting it from side to side. That keeps it short. All these things matter because we're trying to keep this wreath as short and not as thick as possible, because its original intention is to go behind a storm and a screen door. I think Lorraine said she had a screen door, so I don't want to make it big and fluffy. So let me adjust this out because it's a little bigger on the inside. We want a nice, even circular shape. Grabbing it at the pipe cleaners. It's super tight, but it's also still loose enough. The pipe cleaners is still loose enough that I can make adjustments without killing myself or destroying the mesh. Alright, I like that. Yep, there we go. Okay. And if you're ever not sure how something looks, I'll give you a little idea. The naked eye sees things different than the phone does. So I take my phone and I'll take a picture of it once I get it done to make sure that all of the mesh is even and one side's not sticking out more than the other. That's something I recently realized. We're always learning, right? Okay, so let's do this next one. Fabric mesh, I have noticed, does fray a little bit more, but it's just so pretty. And it's so much easier on the hand when you're working with it. What's going on up here? Let's get you off of that. We don't need you. Sorry. Bye-bye. Yes, I throw things on the floor. I could put it in the trash can, but that would be too easy, right? There's always a sweeping session after each project. Alright, so let me get this all ruffled up. Ready to go. Bring it down towards me. I'll be honest, I try to be consistent in every single one that I do in the videos, but my nature is to mix it up. So if I go back and forth in how I do something, my apologies. When you make enough wreaths, you want a little variety in what you're doing, if you know what I mean. So I change it up. There's almost no part of wreath making that's an absolute. As far as technique, it's entirely up to you. You find what is most comfortable for you and gives you the results that you want. Okay, So those outside edges are coming up and over the inside edges. And when I said earlier about curling the outside edges under, you do that, but it doesn't always stay and it's not the end of the world. Do not dwell on it. Okay. I've seen it. Where'd it go? This keeps getting stuck on my scissors. Get that off. And then we have one left to do on this layer. I was ready to start with the ribbon. I'm ready. Again, don't wear any nice clothes when you're doing these projects. You'll be sorry. They catch on everything. It truly is like Velcro. But the nice thing about it acting like Velcro is once it's on the frame, it sticks to the pieces next to it, and then you don't have to worry about it moving. Clip that top, center, and then I'm going to gather it down here. And remember I said this is just one of 2 techniques I use to gather it with my hands. I'll show you on the top layer the other technique I use. Get that in my thumb and forefinger. Bring this out. That needs to be put up there. Okay, that looks right? Yep. A little bit more on this side. There we go. Bring that in, and I'm remembering. Did I remember there? Tan, red, tan, red. Yep. Check my work before I go any further so I don't have to tear up a whole wreath, because it would bug me if they didn't match, since I'm not putting a bow on this wreath. I can't hide anything. I can't hide it. Okay, there's the 2 or 3 twists. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. These out of the way. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. How are we doing here? So that matches, that matches. Yay! As you get going, even as an experienced wreath maker, first couple ruffles I make, I tend to have some issues, but as you get rolling and when you're making multiples a day, it becomes so second nature again. It's the whole muscle memory thing, that they become more perfect each one you make. So we're going to set that rest of the mesh out of the way now, because we have the first layer done. And that one looks like it's a little sharper of a tip. I'm going to adjust that just a touch. And I can see that in the camera, so I have the benefit of the camera too. Go ahead and turn it around. It all looks good. All right. So now we get to play with the ribbon. So I'm going to take the first 6 sets, 6 bundles, clean my table off again, and get them ready. Now what we're going to do is I've already got them folded, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ruffle it at the crease, and at least on the bottom layer of the wreath, I'm going to pinch it with my thumb and forefinger and bring all the tails down to the edge of the table towards me to create an upside down V. And I do that at this point. I learned from my mentor and from experience that proved it, that when you put it in the pipe cleaner, the ribbon tails tend to stay pointed to the outside edge of the wreath better, which is what you want, because on the lower level you're only seeing the tips of the ribbon. I did forget to do one step. I always like to open my pipe cleaners and have them ready so that I'm not doing what I'm doing right now and having to prep them all. I like to pre-do it, pre-place the pipe cleaners, and now with the ribbon they're going vertical. With the mesh, the pipe cleaners went horizontal. With the ribbon, it went vertical. Okay? Okay, back to the ribbon. So I've done that. I'm purple. Where'd that string come from? I'm going to put my pipe cleaner in the... I'm going to put my ribbon bundle in the pipe cleaner in front of me and bring the pipe cleaner up and over, keeping these as close to the outside as possible, keeping that V intact as much as possible. And I'm going to twist this tight and low 2 to 3 times, first of all. 1, 2, 3. But then I'm going to go ahead and twist it probably 6 to 8 times up towards the ceiling in an upward fashion, because what I want to do is I want to create a 1-inch twist and cut off the excess. Because all of this is just going to get tucked into the wreath towards the center and hidden, because we don't need it. That's all we needed it for. Now we're going to lift and separate each of the ribbons and place them in the position we want. So I'm going to lift the top two and then place the bottom one that way. And you notice I'm running my fingers over the edge as I place them. Then lift and separate these two and place this one. And then I'm going to come down with this one. Sometimes you get these little bubbles or gathers that turn into a little poof up at the base near the pipe cleaner. That's from gathering. All you have to do is put your finger up in it and pop it out. Then I'm going to go to the other side, and at least on the bottom layer, I like to do opposing on each side. So this had the 2.5 inch of the brown boot on the inside, where on this side I'm going to have the 1.5 inch towards the inside. So I'm going to lift the top two ribbons out of the way, plus lifting them up and pulling on them brings them away from the the pipe cleaner better, so that you can place it where you want. The red and the cowboy boot's going to stay in the center on both sides, but see how I flipped it? And then I usually at the end go back and fix everything and hold it down right up here where the pipe cleaner is, so I can help hold it flat and help place it where I want it to be. Now I'm going to do this the same way I did the mesh. I'm going to do the other two, this one and this one. Then we'll come back and do the 3 in between. Keeping in mind, since I had all of the designs on the red and brown ribbon, with the design upright going this way, the other 3 in between them will be opposite. And I'll explain that again when I get there. So I don't need this. I'm going to this one. And I want to make sure that my boots on the red one are right side up to my left. I'm going to gather that ribbon right down the center where it was creased and folded. Make my V. Bring it to the one I want to put it in. Hold it in place, keeping the edges to the outside and twisting it low and tight 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Then twisting up until I get a little low, about 1 inch or so of twist, and cut the excess off and throw it away. Okay? Popping those little bubbles out. It gets all gathered up there, and then just tuck this in. You can just lay that nub of twist flat because it's not going to be seen, or you can try to tuck it into the mesh. I try to tuck it into the mesh. It's entirely up to you. So lift and separate and place. Lift and separate, put in place. Making sure those little bubbles are out. See what I mean? I'm starting to work off the table. It's what's most comfortable for me. Lift and separate. This time bringing the 2.5 down and putting the 1.5 at the top. Sometimes I run my fingers over them all at once to make sure that they're not wrinkled. I do that. Skip this one, and we're going to do one more with the boots facing upright in that direction. The boots and the hats. As far as the horseshoes, I can never remember what the right way is, but obviously the open side of the horseshoe needs to be up. Somebody can speak to me if that's not true. Let me know in the comments. One of these, I think it's the red one, is super thick, so ruffling it's a little bit more challenging, but the thicker the ribbon, the better for me. I just love thick ribbon. I prefer the linen ribbon too, which is what all 3 of these are too. They just have a nicer feel to them. I think they look nicer. That's just me. There is definitely a place for the polyester satiny ones, and I absolutely use those, especially around the holidays. Okay. Now, I've been tucking these nubs in as I go. You could wait and do it at the end of each layer, at the end of this layer, but I like to do it as I go along so that I don't forget and then have to deal with it later. I like to get into a groove and not have to go back and correct something I've forgotten. So, there's that. This is my first cowboy wreath too that I can recall. I also bought a vase that's a cowboy boot, so I'm going to try making that into an arrangement, and if I have time I will make that on a YouTube video, so stay tuned for that. So I've done all my things. Now I get to go back and do the other three bundles that go in between those. This time I need to make sure that my boots are going the other direction. My boots and hats are going the other direction. There's also a guy on a horse. And since they moved to Wyoming, I couldn't think of anything more appropriate. That's pretty much their mascot. It's not exactly, because I don't do anything trademarked. I don't want to get in trouble. If it's generic, I can do it. I can, like with sports teams and stuff, I can do the colors and a football, but I cannot, well, not, let me put it this way, I will not do them because I don't want to take any chances of my business getting shut down, because they absolutely have the right to do that if you're using their trademark designs in your product. There are some teams, like for example here in Nebraska, the Nebraska Huskers have a program for small business owners like myself. I have a friend that I collaborate with to get a license each year for a couple $100, and then buy the what are they called? The little stickers, the holographic stickers, to put on them to say that they're approved, but your products are approved by the Husker organization. I know that she submits, I think, 5 designs a year, and they review it to make sure it meets their standards, and then she can make those and make a small income off of those each year while supporting the team. I've heard too many stories of people making trademark designs and getting busted, and they always said, oh, I'll never get caught. Oh, it's not a big deal. It's never worth that. It's never worth the effort to get in trouble and lose everything. Because they'll come after you hardcore, some of the sports organizations, as well as Disney, anything. I don't do anything like that. Keeps us out of trouble. Nothing's worse getting in trouble. My integrity comes first. Tighten low 3, twisting it up like 6 times in this case to get my 1 inch. And see how this is sticking up a little? No worries. It'll all be flattened out by the top layer. So don't waste your time trying to adjust it to make it sit right. It will fix itself in the process. So I did my inverted V. I put it in the pipe cleaners. I cut off the excess that wasn't twisted. I'll lift and separate. And I remembered to make sure that the hats and the, yeah, I did it. Second guessing myself. I made sure that the designs were facing the right direction. That there. That helps to keep it flatter. If you're not worried about it, you don't have to be pushing down on it and keeping it in place that way. I just find that it helps. Let's see. So that one went that, so that goes the other way. So you notice I did every other with the boots facing one way and every other with the boots facing the other way. And like I said, I can only do that in a wreath that has an even number of ties. Otherwise, the pattern is not correct. The details, you know what I mean? Cut that off. Tuck that in. Lift and separate the ribbons. Position them where I want them. Always trying to make sure that they are facing the outside edge of the wreath. And you notice even with the ribbon, I'm not handling it from the tips because that is cut. The ribbon's not going to fray as easily as the mesh, but again, the less you handle the cut edges, the better for the integrity of your product. Okay. All right, so we finished that first layer. So now there's the other 6 pipe cleaners. We're going to pull them up in between each piece of mesh that is in the bottom layer. So that will be the next portion of the project. I'll be putting the other 6 pieces of mesh in. And then after that, we have to decide whether the ribbon's going to go in first or the sign's going to go in first. But we'll talk about that more once we get there. All right. So there's that. Now I'm going to go back and lay them out horizontally so I'm not struggling when I have a handful of mesh. turning it as I work on the project so I'm not straining my back. Okay, so we're ready for the last 6 pieces. If you haven't been on my page before, please feel free to check out some of the other videos. I also do kits. Like I said, it's much more detailed in the instruction. I've got a library of over 60 videos now for you to choose from to look at. I'll go ahead and put that there in the center. Now I'm starting off with the red on the outside and the beige on the inside, so I'll remember that. So the first 3 will have the red facing the outside. Now I almost always start out with 2 hands, but then this is the other thing I do. It also helps to hold down your mesh, which remember, always curl side down. I like to hold it like that because I can pull on it a touch, for lack of a better way to describe it, and get tighter ruffles. I think they're tighter. Holding it with the thumb and forefinger, I'm positioning the mesh. And I'm once again going back to my wreath and putting the mesh in vertically in the horizontal pipe cleaners. Twisting the pipe cleaners tight and low 2 to 3 times. And then I'm taking that outside cut edge of the mesh on one side over the inside cut edge of the mesh. And then the outside cut edge on this side over the inside cut edge. And now that we have all this other product on there, you gotta manipulate yourself around it a little bit more. It's not that big of a deal. Check out my circle. This one's a little bit off, so I'm gonna grab the top one a little bit and pull it out a little bit so this matches up. Try to curl it under if it'll let me. Making sure I have basically an even amount of mesh on each side of the center. I'll skip this one and go to the next one. Gotta push that a little further out of the way now that it has all that going on, so it doesn't catch on my mesh. Alright, again I'm using the edge of the table to unroll my mesh. Clipping the center, since it's a pattern it was easy to find. I'm going to gather it up here, and then I'm going to do the gather with one hand while holding the mesh down with the other. I find that this technique is best used when you have a mesh with a design. It's a lot harder to keep your ruffle down the center when it's a solid colored mesh. Just a little tip and trick there. Oh, what's this? Freeloader. Okay. I've got it my thumb and forefinger. They look matched up, making sure that the red is on the outside of the frame, facing me. Tight and low 2 to 3 times. Lifting it out of the way because I don't need it right now. Outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Alright, let me see what we've got going on here. More freeloaders. Okay. This is not even, so I need to adjust it and then cut the edge a little bit because it's a little rough right here. Oh, it just came off. That's always nice when it just comes right off, right? You don't have to cut it. Alright. Alright, that looks... I think that's good. And then we're going to skip this one and go over here to this one. Get out there, it's hiding. Alright, this is the last one with the red on the outside edge, so I'm turning it over before I unroll it. Clip that center, put it up there. Okay, so gather in the center. Holding it as I go along, gathering it with one hand in this technique. Alright, and that edge is matched up. That one looks matched up. It's funny how when you get from here on the table to here, sometimes it's not matched up, but that's, you know, it is what it is. It's not the end of the world. You just make the adjustments. Not a problem. Okay. Trying to keep that pipe cleaner right there in between the 10. Oop. and the red. You can put a lot of strength behind twisting the pipe cleaners and pulling on the product because it's well made and it can handle it. Get that out of the way. Up and over with the cut edge. And then up and over with this cut edge. Alright. This looks a little bigger on the inside, so I'm going to pull the outside out just a touch to even it up. Making sure those edges are nice. Seeing if it'll let me curl it under a little. Be careful too if it gets caught on something below. Don't just jerk on it. It could end up causing pulls on your ribbon or your mesh that don't look good. That needs to go a little bit further out there. Okay. No, a little more. A little more. Alright. But you notice I'm never ever grabbing it from out here to adjust it. That's a big no-no. And if you did it accidentally, as long as it was on this side, it wouldn't be the end of the world because it would be hidden by all of the other products on top of it. Got a little fray going on there. Get you out of here. Granted, no one's going to see anything frayed up here, but I want it to look as good and clean as possible. Just standards, you know what I mean? Now it's time to do the last three. And this time we're making sure that the beige, the predominantly beige edge is sitting towards the outside of the ruffle when we put it in the wreath. See how small those are compared to when I started? So this is going to be way curlier. This is often why I use the edge of the table to unruffle it. To unroll it. Get out of the way. It's definitely much more curly, so I'm going to go ahead and use my phone to hold it down better on the top. I don't know what happened here, but like about 8 frays. Just easier to cut it straight across and start fresh. Okay, I'm gathering it up. Bring this up to the top, holding in the center with my thumb and forefinger. You could use another finger instead of your index finger. Do what's comfortable with you, but just hold it with your thumb and one other finger loosely so you can make any adjustments you need to. Now I'm remembering that the beige goes to the outside. It's catching on itself. Okay, bring that to the center. Tight and low. 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to take that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Get out of the way. Outside cut edge over the inside cut edge. Just a couple more strings right here. Alright. Next. Alright. Beige to the outside edge. So that's my outside edge over here. Clip it. And put this on there. Don't know what happened to this. Clean it up. Even it out. This is one long one. Come on. Get that out of the way now. But it certainly helps hold it, especially when it's this curly. So, a lot of times I'll use these to weight it. I know a couple of people have like pet rocks and stuff like that, which is cute. Alright, I'm putting that predominantly beige edge to the outside of the wreath. Tight and low 2 to 3 times. 1, 2, 3. At least 2, if not 3. See how some of these are trying to go under the top layer mesh and hide? We'll pull those out, but not to the end, so we're not handling it so much. when we do a final go around, I will pull those out where they belong. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. I'm on thumbs right now, no pun intended. Make another trim there so it's nice and even. There we go. I think that's good. Oh, a couple of strays over here. Okay. And last but not least, this is our final piece of mesh for this project. And the outside edge should be the beige. So let me do it this way because it was rolled backwards. Super curly. Stinker. Get that clipped. See, it just wants to keep curling on me, so that's why I'm putting the phone on there. That'll really help. Fabric mesh, I think, tends to fray a little bit more. I know some people use a wood burner to cut their mesh because it kind of melts it a little bit and seals the ends. It doesn't entirely stop it from fraying, but it helps. You can't do that with the fabric or you'll start a fire. So no fabric mesh with wood burner. You can try, but make sure you're outside and you have a fire extinguisher just to be safe. See here? I mixed my techniques. It's not a big deal. Don't need that anymore. This is the last piece. Get that in there. All right. So curly. So curly. Alright, so here we go. This is looking fabulous. Fabulous, I must say. I just love the fabric mesh. I'm sure I've said it already in this video before. I apologize if I did. I just love this kind of mesh. It's certainly not as hard on the hands as the all plastic. Piece of tape from the end of the roll I missed. Off I say. Alright, outside cut edge, over inside cut edge, outside cut edge, over inside cut edge. Make sure everything's where you want it to be. And now I'm going to stand after I show it to you. Is that this one? Up here. Okay, that's just, for a second it looked like it was sticking way out, but that's because the ribbon wasn't over it. And I'm doing the no-no. I'm touching the ribbon before I have to. Okay, so I think I have decided in the process of making the rest of this that I want to put the sign on before I put the ribbon on. So what I'm going to do is bring all these pipe cleaners out to the top edge. And I'm going to lay my wreath so that there's a pipe cleaner at 12 o'clock and one at 6 o'clock if this were a clock. So that I can place it evenly in the center, and I know it's centered that way, okay? The C in the word welcome is the middle. So I'm going to make sure that lines up with this top pipe cleaner here. And this pipe cleaner lines up with this one here. And make sure that it's centered. And it's even distance from each of these on the side. And then I'm going to go ahead and sit back down because it's easier for me to attach these when I'm sitting. The next step involves, let me sit down first. I have a broken mat, so I have to play with my chair in a very specific way to get it to pull forward to the table. Alright, I'm going to bring this in a little bit smaller so I can show you this tool I have right here. This is a plastic embroidery needle. This one's 6 inches long. I learned about these from another maker years ago. I use this to pull the pipe cleaners through the mesh into the back of the frame so that I'm not fighting all the materials while I'm putting it together. And granted, it's not... Is that glue? Yeah, that's glue. Get off of there. I'm not fighting with the whole project to get my pipe cleaners through the frame. So let me bring this back out. And when I pull the pipe cleaners from the sign through to the back of the frame, I do it in an X fashion. And you know, I was taught this years ago. That helps you to make sure that your sign is flat once you've placed it and you don't have it sitting up higher on one side than the other. It really does make a difference. So I'm going to do these two first, and then I'm going to do these two on the sides after that. So I'm going to take this and pull it through the frame, and I'm going to pull it off the table a little bit. Bring it up a little bit more so you don't miss anything. And then I'm going to take that pipe cleaner after I got the needle through the back of the frame. I'm going to put the pipe cleaner through the eye of the needle. You could use metal ones. I have the big metal ones that I started out with. But yeah, these are dangerous. They're huge and they're metal, and I don't want to hurt myself. So let me pull that through. And then I'm going to turn it around instead of reaching across the table. And I'm going to make sure that this one, pardon, is positioned just below, pardon, getting dry from all this talking. Position it so that I put the needle in just below the pipe cleaners for the ribbon tails. I pulled it through and lifted it off the table so I can put the pipe cleaner through the eye of the needle, fold it over so it stays on while I'm pulling it through. Now I like to use the plastic to cover the sign so that when I'm turning it over, I don't scratch it. And then you just take your pipe cleaner and you wrap it around. I push down on the wreath a little bit because, again, this is a storm door wreath, so we want it to settle into the wreath more than on a traditional fluffy wreath. And I'm just wrapping it around until I've got it completely wrapped around, and then I'm taking that sharp end of the pipe cleaner and it's facing down into the wreath towards the sign so that it doesn't scratch the door of the person's home. I'll lift it up and twist it and do the same thing on the other side. I like to try to be able to wrap them around where there's another pipe cleaner already on the frame from the Deco Mesh, so that if the person that's displaying this has a glass insert in their door and you can see it from the inside, it doesn't look as much of a circus as it would if you had all sorts of different colors going on too as well. These blend and then they won't show as well. So now I don't have to hold the sign while I'm turning it. I'm still going to keep the plastic out. So I've got that placed in the center. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the two on the sides. Bring them through. I'm going to tuck that under a little bit. I don't want that cut edge sticking out so that it's exposed. This hides it better. Okay, so I'm going to put that in. There's actually a line in the sign that looks to be center, so we're going to use that as our guide. Put that through the eye of the needle, pull it through. I'm going to do the last one by hand to show you. It's not as easy, but I can do it. Making sure these are all, there we go. I'm going to just take the tip of this and I'm going to put it through the mesh. Now, with every one of these, I made sure that I put the pipe cleaner slightly under the edge of the, inside the edge of the sign so that you can't see this once it's in place. Now, that didn't go too bad, but sometimes they really fight you. They buckle up, all the things. So on this one, it's going to attach at the crossbar because of how the frame was set up. I'm just going to wrap this around. I remembered to make sure the sign was on that piece of plastic to protect it. Twisting it around and poking that edge underneath. The end underneath, I should say. And then doing the same thing with this last one. Putting some pressure on it so that everything looks the same when I turn it over. It's not cockeyed. Angled. What insert adjective there? Adjective? I think. I've been out of school for 42 years. So I'm done with that. So there we go. Looks nice and centered. Fabulous. So now I'm going to go and put the final 6 bundles of ribbon tails on the wreath. Now I'm going to do the same thing as far as doing every other with the boots facing one direction and the other, but I'm going to do the ones at 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock last. And I do that because I like the way it lays over the sign when it's done. Okay. So let's put this one in first and then we'll go from there. Okay. So I'm going to make sure that the hat and the boot are upright to the right, but this time I'm going to gather it like I did with the other 6, but I'm not going to put the upside down V, the inverted V, because I'm going to flare this ribbon out. So I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to tighten it 2 to 3 times. And then I'm going to come back at the end to explain what I'm going to do with the pipe cleaners. So with these 3, I'm going to put the brown 2.5 inch towards the sign, always the red in the middle, and the 1.5 inch on the outside. And you notice I'm running my fingers over it to give it a little more curl. I like a little bit more curl on the top layer. And no worries, it's still going to lay nicely behind a screen or storm door, because at worst it's going to lay it down a little bit. You can either make them totally straight like I did on the bottom layer. If you're concerned about it looking smushed, I guarantee you it won't. Or do a little bit of curl, it gives it a little more character as well. Now on the bottom layer, I did one side one way, I did the other side another. Not on the top layer. I'm going to have the 2.5 inch brown boot in the center, towards the center of the wreath. Then the red, and then the 1.5 inch to the outside. Okay? And then I often take all of them at once to curl. We'll come back to this. So I'm going to work around this way. So this one has the hat right side up when you're looking at it straight on. So when I'm looking at it, and when you're looking at it in the right direction, the boots are right side up on the red ribbon, and the hats are right side up. So that means on this one, I'm going to put them upside down compared to this one. So that means that it's going to go this way. I had it in my hand wrong. So now I'm going to go this way, and it's going to lay over this one. So it's going to look the same way as the bottom 1, 2, 3. It's going to look the same way as the bottom layer with every other on top of every other, but the design is different. Now on these every other 3, I'm going to put the 1.5 inch next to the sign. More dimension, more design, more interest when you mix it up a little bit. The mechanics are the same. You put it in the same, you fluff it the same, you do all the things the same, but it gives it a little bit more dimension. So I always try to turn it towards me so that I'm not straining my back and arms. And then I'm putting it, see, it's more of a starburst than it was a V because they're all 3 spread out. And I'll probably fuss with this a little more. So I did those 2. I'm skipping this one because we want these 2 on top. So the next one will be the same direction on the patterns as this one. These 2 will be the same. These 2 will be the same. Move it over because we're going to this one now. Make sure my pipe cleaners are all ready for me. I got sidetracked with chatting. Okay, so that means the boot is going to be upside down towards the top. But I'm not doing that one next. I'm doing this one. So I'm going to do those 2 first. Then I did those 2. I should have done it that way. You'll see it in the end. You can do it however you want. This is just what I do. So this means that it needs to go this way. Okay. No. Marguerite, you're in the wrong tie. It's supposed to go here. Oops! Oopsie. Tighten though 2 to 3 times. And remembering again to lift and separate. And the 2.5 inch brown goes towards the center. Where the 1.5 goes to the outside. So again, I know I'm being repetitive. These 2 are the same. So these 2 will be the same. Pardon. The further I get into the project, the more I'll cough because I'm so dry. It seems like every time I get sick anymore, the cough likes to stay around for 2 or 3 months, which is the case. I'm about, what am I? It was the end of February. A little over a month and a half. I got a ways to go till that nonsense stops. All right, those were right side up, so these are upside down to my left. Ruffling in the center where it was folded in the bundles. Tight and low. 3 times. Then remembering this time, the 1.5 inch goes closest to the sign. One of my students showed me this technique to help curl your ribbon too. You just take a wooden dowel or a pen or a pencil and you just run it like this and it gives it a really nice curl. So I'll share that with you. Lift and separate, bring that one out. Lift and separate, bring that one out. You can even curl all 3 at once with the little extra tool. And all these things you have around the house, either in craft supplies or a pen or pencil. Everybody has pen and pencils in their home. I'm going to do that with all of them now so that they match. Alrighty then. Just on the top layer because we want them flat and out to the edge on the bottom layer. Okay. Alright, so we're down to 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock. So I'm going to do this one first since it's right in front of me. Okay, so that one, the hat's upright, boots upright. So it's going to go this way. Here. It should go the other way on the top. 2, 3. So this is going to be the 2.5 inch closest to the sign. Popping those little bubbles out. And ruffle it. Not ruffle it, curl it. Lift and separate. And then last but not least, alright, the hat's upside down there, so it's going to be right side up here. Yep. I did it right. I always check my work. Needs to come over a touch. Needs to be centered right above that C in the word welcome. Okay, so this will be the 2.5 inch closest to the sign. And yes, I'm manhandling a little bit. This is why I like the linen the most. You can manhandle all of them, but this is very sturdy and durable. It popped as one. There we go. Let me do this side now. And I'll take a look at it again at the end, but now, before I position the ribbon on the bottom layer, I'm going to show you how I handle this. I like to make sure they're all the same length. Like this one's longer than the other one, so I'll clip off the excess. Just because I like it to be even. Just depends on how you twist it, whether they come out even or not. It's not It's not a factor in anything other than it just bugs me. Okay, now I'm going to sneeze from all the fuzz. Bless me. Thank you. Now, is it all even these or not? I can tell that just looking at them. Okay. So, we don't want the word welcome to be hidden. We don't want any of the beautiful designs on the sign hidden. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to roll it around the pen, pencil, or dowel. Roll it down towards the middle. If you watch some of my other videos, you can see what I do otherwise. There are other techniques that we can do, but this is my simplest favorite way to do these. Okay, one. I'm curling the inside one towards the sign and the outside one towards me. Again, most people won't see the details, but I like every little bit of it to be consistent. Push that towards me on this side. All right. Twist that one towards the center. And this one towards me. 2 to go. Oh, it untwisted. What happened here? Did I not tighten it up when I was talking? Okay. I don't know how I missed that, but let's do that again. Straighten it out. Curl it around the dowel. That's giving me fits. Trust me, you're going to a good home. Don't argue with me. Oof. I'll fluff that back out. I flattened it a little bit with all that excitement. Not a big deal. If you're a wreath maker, you know that we could sit around and fluff our ribbon all day long. Do that one. Alright. And last but not least, this one I'm curling towards the sign. And this one I'm curling towards me. And then I will fluff, so to speak, the ribbon on the top first. Making sure it's where I want it. In this design, we're not necessarily wanting to see a whole lot of the ribbon, a whole lot of the mesh. The mesh is what holds it up more than anything. And then turn it. Fluff it. That all looks good. Let me do the outside edge. So now I'm going to lift the mesh up on the top layer so that I can bring all my ribbon down here out to the edge. Make sure it's visible. Otherwise, what's the point having it there? And I'm not grabbing the tips of the ribbon, as you notice. I'm grabbing up towards the base to bring them out because we don't want to fray that ribbon. The more you cut it, the shorter it's going to be. We don't want that. repeat one. I don't remember where I started. That mesh is stuck. Once I get that ribbon straight, that's not a big deal. But yeah, as you're building this, the bottom ribbon, the bottom layer ribbon, likes to go hide. Likes to go hide. I don't know if I did that one or not. If I did, it started to hide again. Okay. So let's do that. And there it is. That's pretty. Okay. Well, there you have it. Now you've seen how the magic is made to do this beautiful cowboy wreath. I love it. I think it came out fabulous. If you like what you saw, feel free. I can talk. Feel free to follow along and subscribe to my page. It's free. I do tutorials every Sunday. They're usually at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I usually do a kit each month, usually having to do with the most current holiday coming up. I'd show you all sorts of different designs. I predominantly do the storm door wreaths, but I do container arrangements, coffee cup arrangements, swags, big fluffy wreaths, and everything in between. So if you like what you saw, feel free to come back. You can also follow me on Facebook. That's where I notify everybody of the upcoming tutorials on YouTube. But if you are a subscriber, which like I said before is free, you'll be notified when I have a new one coming up. But you can usually expect every Sunday afternoon to see me with something new and creative. Usually seasonal to what's going on at the time. So thank you again for joining me. I know that you have the ability to spend your time in any way you like, and the fact that you take some time out of your day to spend with me while I'm creating these beautiful things is very much appreciated. Thanks again, everybody, and have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye!